that's the foundation to build anything off of. When we're building it off of a foundation of trying to prove ourselves or, make someone else happy or anything, it's never going to be as strong and as permanent as that love and appreciation for ourselves.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Journey to Impact, where we talk to entrepreneurs and organizations and talk about the impact they're having in people's lives and their journey to get to that point. I'm so excited today to talk with Lindsey B.
Hello everyone! I am so excited to be here.
I appreciate you being here, and this is probably going to be more like a party than a podcast, don't you think?
Yes, I definitely think so too.
Party
yes.
podcast.
Party,
all right. But you like that? Okay. Well, thank you for being here, and we are on location because she has an awesome place, and you're going to see some bits and pieces of her place as we go through the podcast. But why don't you give us a brief overview of where you are now? What is this place that we're shooting from?
Yes, absolutely. So as Janet was saying, my name is Lindsey Bonadonna, and I am an optimist, encourager, and owner of this beautiful space called B. And B is an entire building dedicated to making a wellness-filled life easier and more delicious. And the reason why that is so important is the real mission of B, which is to help encourage people to slow down and get curious and fuel themselves in the way that feels best to them so that they have the energy and capacity to create their own unique ripple in the world. We hide that behind smoothies and things, but really what we're trying to do is, hey, make sure that you have the energy so you can go out and do what you love and do it well.
That's amazing. So we kind of have the same mission. We just do it differently. But I like the way that you do it with food, and the smoothies here are amazing, just so you know. So if you're in the Cincinnati area, come and check it out.
Yeah.
Because they are very good. Well, I think this is a great place to be, but it wasn't easy to get here, was it?
No.
It was probably a bit of a journey. So can you take us back to how you ended up being an entrepreneur and kind of where this all started?
Yeah, it's wild. I'm so excited to reflect back on this because it's been a little bit. So my family they were all entrepreneurs. So my family back home in Buffalo all owned car dealerships. So I feel like I was kind of like around that energy from a very young age. And I remember I was working at my dad's dealership. I think I started around 12, 13 and, was doing deposits and answering the phones and all of that. But I remember it was around age 15 where I started having these ideas of how to make the business better.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sure your family loved the 13-year-old come and go, hey, we could.
Of course. I mean, who doesn't?
Right. That's amazing, though. That's amazing.
But I remember having these thoughts, and of course then, I kind of I didn't want to work at my dad's business anymore, so I got my first job. But throughout my whole working career, which the majority of it was spent in the beer business, I've always kind of found myself in these places where I can see what's possible. I love to act on what's possible. I like to encourage others. And that whole personality piece of seeing what's possible really translated into my very first entrepreneurial adventure, which was actually with my ex-husband. Okay. So, as I mentioned, I worked in craft beer for, I think it was 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Which is wild. And now I do health stuff, but there's room for beer in that too, friends. Don't worry.
All right. And wine, maybe?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Of course.
All of it.
I have all of it. Okay. All of it. Welcome.
Excellent.
So when I met my ex-husband, he was also in beer, owned a brewery. At the time, I was working for another brewery. I had stepped away because the company I was working for got bought by a really big company.
Okay.
And while I had different opportunities available to me, I knew I was in my late 20s. I was like, they're going to want me to either do spreadsheets or sell things I don't like. That doesn't feel like me. So instead, I decided to go work at the Apple Store. Okay. And that was a 6-month transformative period for me that really prepared me to step into an entrepreneurial experience with my ex-husband. So when we met, his brewery was already a year old. It was an exciting time. We get married, have a kid. And when I was considering going back to work, the brewery was at a place of getting ready to really expand and grow. He had bought out his business partner, and I started to get more involved in things, and we went through a massive expansion, built a 26,000 square foot facility. It was
Whoa.
crazy.
That's nuts. But you were involved in that
Looking
then
back,
at this point.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But my role was really more of like what colors are things going to be? How do we want people to feel? What font are we going to use? Like things like that. It's like both the guest and the employee experience stuff. So
you're very people oriented.
I do love the people.
Very people oriented.
I do.
Okay.
I love people so much.
Let's
I
remember that.
Yes,
Go back to that. All right.
So, as a part of this expansion, not only was it brewery, but about 3,000 to 4,000 square feet of it was a full service barbecue restaurant. So, not only did we do this expansion, we now are like fully restaurateurs.
Wow.
Which, looking back, I'm like,
What were we thinking?
But there's that ability, like that comes in for me personally in this journey of like, I could see what's possible. I believed in what he was building. Let's make it happen.
And no matter what, right? Yeah. You just keep on
going.
Okay.
So
I love it.
Fast forward a little bit, things are not going well, and at the time it was incredibly stressful. But as I look at it now, I understand it was part of my journey. Mm-hmm. I got to experience the absolute worst of the worst that an entrepreneur could experience. So basically, I don't have full take is that as we were looking at the projections, very specific things had to work out a very specific way, and of course none of them did. Oh, no. So very quickly found ourselves
there. Don't mean to interrupt, but could you do me a big favor and rate and review, follow, or subscribe, depending upon the platform you are listening to or watching this podcast on. It really helps us out so that we can continue to create great impact for you as well as other people. We want to magnify your impact with this podcast. So let me know if you want to be on the podcast. If you have a great story, get in touch with us and we'll see if we can have you on. Back to the podcast.
Company. At one point in time, Jason needed to go back into production to like brew the beer and stuff. And he asked me, would you be the CEO? Because I feel like you could really turn this around.
Wow.
And I remember at that time, Janet, so right around that time too, I got diagnosed with autoimmune stuff, lost my aunt, and coming
lots of bad stuff.
Yeah, lots of stuff. My youngest was 9 months at the time. I mean, it's looking back, I'm like, how am I here today?
Right. Right.
But,
right. It was a lot.
Yeah. But when he asked me that question, and this is a point that I really want to loop back to, is he asked if I wanted to be the CEO, and I was like, my ego was like, yes. Because previously I was always a title chaser, a what's next, tell me I'm doing a good job, but I'm not going to believe that I'm doing a good enough job. Like, always on to the next thing, the next certification. So my ego was like, CEO, well, doesn't get much higher than that.
Nope.
But I remember having this feeling of, I don't want this.
Right.
I don't want to do this. Like, life is something different than what I picture CEO to be. So I remember pausing for a couple days before I answered, and ultimately I said yes. My ego won out.
Okay. Got
my red lipstick, Janet. I was like very convinced that I could take all of this and show everyone that I can fix it. And most importantly, with where I was at in my personal I was very insecure, so always seeking external validation.
Right.
So to me, I'm like, if I can turn this around, the external validation I will get will allow me to live for the next 100 years, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, I can relate. I absolutely do. You just keep going. What's next? But it's always kind of it's not a what's next interesting. It's a what next higher level, right?
How do I prove myself?
Yes. How do I prove myself? Yep.
Not yet realizing that all I ever need is right inside, and that I am loved and I love myself and all of that. I know it's very cliche, but I'll tell you what, friends, that self-love and self-appreciation, that's the foundation to build anything off of. When we're building it off of a foundation of trying to prove ourselves or, make someone else happy or anything, it's never going to be as strong and as permanent as that love and appreciation for ourselves.
Good stuff right there. That's
hard journey to get to, though.
Yes, unfortunately. Right.
Yeah. So in
All
that
right,
time
so you
of
said yes.
CEO, yeah, I said
and now
yes.
you're CEO.
Got the office and everything.
All
and
right.
So through that time, there were times where there was not enough money for payroll that was due the next day. So scrambling to do that, to me, I'm just like, oh, well, we just like hustle harder. We do this. Like
Right.
we went through, this is really cool, but we divorced from our wholesaler to start self-distributing because we thought that that would be like a good way to try to help save the business. And
Okay.
that's near impossible to do with the current way that liquor laws are written. Once a brewery ties with a wholesaler, it's for life. It's crazy. That's another
It's a whole nother podcast.
whole nother podcast. Had to lay off lots of people.
Oh.
It's like when you think
people,
of
so that didn't make you feel good.
did not feel good.
Yeah.
I had to do tons of spreadsheets and projections. Also not a fan of that.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then, Jason and I's marriage, it already was not strong. But then you put that on top of it.
Right.
Not a good vibe. It was not
Okay.
cool. So, but through all of that, I ended up getting really sick. And that sick part, because I was living off of basically French fries and stress. There was
Right,
even
right.
though I knew I needed to do better, I had this new diagnosis.
Right.
I was still like,
But CEO.
yeah, I know.
Right.
It's ridiculous. So, I got really sick.
Life lessons.
I
Yep.
had this inexplicable headache that I could barely walk. I had to go back to the ER twice in 1 week. They couldn't figure out what would work because the normal cocktail of migraine stuff wasn't doing anything. And coming out of that, Jason had said something to me. He's like, I think, because I've always been a believer, heal your body, do all the things that you need to do first, and then explore medicine. Medicine's
Right.
important, medicine's powerful, but I think
Right.
sometimes we just start taking it as a Band-Aid without addressing the root cause.
Okay.
So that whole incident really caused me to pause and be like, oh, okay, I do need to refocus on myself. Because Jason had said, he's like, I don't want to be pushing you around in a wheelchair at some point because your autoimmune stuff is so
bad.
out of
Right.
control. So take that pause. So we kind of reworked things.
Okay.
Started seeing a health coach, started healing my gut, started getting into just doing yoga once a week. And as I started to heal my body, eat more foods that were more whole foods than processed foods, I started to have different awareness of ooh, there's some unaligned stuff going on in my life, including my marriage and some
Okay.
other relationships.
Right.
So starting to move out of that, which then was kind of oh, what else is possible here? And kind of through that whole journey, I really discovered that I had a passion for helping people feel more well in their lives without it feeling like one more thing to do.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Which is
wild.
what a lot of people feel like, right?
Yeah, because the prioritization of ourselves is so hard. Even
Yeah.
when you know all the things, it's still really hard. But that combination of my ability to see what's possible in a situation, and then my optimistic personality, and I love cheering people on, kind of resulted in all of this. And what's so funny, Janet, is in one of the very low points, I remember sitting in the office at the brewery
Okay.
and saying to myself, gosh, it would be so cool if I could make a living just helping people see what's possible in their lives and helping them just to have a better day and telling them how great they are.
Guess what you're doing now?
That's manifestation, baby.
That's right.
Right
That's
there.
right.
But I literally remember that. But yeah, after I left the brewery, after we got divorced, I got deeper into a health journey. I was working with Arbonne, which is a network marketing company that does some really cool stuff, and became a health coach, became a yoga teacher,
Wow.
and then this all happened.
So pause a minute. So feeling better or getting healthier
Yeah.
brought you some clarity mentally.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you seem surprised by that. I'm a little surprised by that, but that's
Yeah.
very interesting. But that's what happened?
It's so wild because now that I've seen it with one-on-one clients I've worked with, I understand the research, the training behind it, and part of why B has been modeled in this very specific way of trying to make whole foods more easily approachable and taste good and all of that
Yeah.
is because when we start to notice how different foods feel in our body and we just kind of, fact is, when we can eat more whole foods and less processed foods, that will get us to a better place. But the brain fog starts to go away.
Wow.
You start to have more energy. You start to just kind of like question things more of like, you know, when we're in that cycle of high stress, we're just trying to survive. So we're not stepping back and being like, man, I'm really unhappy in my marriage, or like, gosh, I don't like how that thing is hanging off the wall. Let me like fix that. Even because every time I look at it, it frustrates me. You know, it's like we're just like in survival, doing the bare minimum.
And that's not a good way to stay.
And that's not a good way to stay.
But when we step out, I think you were starting to say.
When we step out, when we start noticing how our body feels in different situations, when we start to align ourselves with more of the things that feel like a hell yes versus the things where we're like, oh God, I don't want to do it, but I guess I'll do it so Mary doesn't get upset at me.
Right.
When we start really trying to bring ourselves higher up onto the priority list, like the craziest things happen. And I've seen this with my clients too, of like the clients that I've attracted are inclined to want to blow up their relationships or their careers. And it's been so cool because they come to me with, oh, I want to eat better. I want to have more energy and all that. And we spend maybe like 2 sessions on food and movement. And then all of a sudden we get into like the tangle of what really contributes to our lives more than food and exercise. And that's all the other life stuff going on.
Interesting. So first nugget here I'm hearing is self first. You have to be healthy and happy and mentally fit.
Yes.
And before you can really do these entrepreneurial journey or help others, impact others, and you have to help yourself first.
It does make a difference. Like I think, and I'm sure many people listening, and I'm sure Janet, we've talked about this before, it's like we can push through. I mean, we're entrepreneurs because we do hold that ability to just like hustle at all costs and everything. And sometimes we got to turn that on, but living there in a permanent state, all that happens, and to me, stress is the number one thing that we can look at to help improve our health, more so than food and drink. Like a first foundational thing to me is really looking at stress and life and what's going on and where changes need to happen. But because we are the only ones we spend our whole lives with, when we are operating at this high level of stress all the time, all that gets us is sick more and we die younger. That's the only result.
So
no one else has been able to dispute me on that. But this like hustle hard mentality and culture that we have, we get sick more, we die younger, we don't get to enjoy the fruits of our things. But when we prioritize ourselves, and I've been surprised by this because I've really been leaning into this in the building of B and how B runs, is everything will turn out even better than we could expect. When we step back, we slow down, we care for ourselves, we take that extra 5 minutes to make ourselves something in the morning or grab something to go. We make sure that we stay fueled. That is really how we can make a huge change and a huge impact and have the energy to be able to do it.
That's a great message. That I hope everybody heard that. And if you didn't, rewind it. Right. So that's amazing. So your journey here was more of a self-exploratory journey. Now you've you understand yourself better, you're healthier. So explain what this ecosystem of B is and how you came up with it. I mean, it sounds like it was, how can I help others figure out what I just figured out?
Yeah, so it's so wild because when we are in that place of fueling our bodies with both the life and foods that feel authentic to us, because y'all, healthy doesn't mean that you eat salads 24/7. I was just telling Janet,
thank goodness.
Guess where I'm going tonight? McDonald's.
There you go.
Or some French fries, tons of salt and pepper, and I can't wait.
For a birthday party. For
a birthday party, because there's room for all of that there.
Yeah, nice.
So the way B came to be is that when I got my health coaching certification through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and then I did my yoga teaching certification in 2020, I started teaching. My friend Kara, who owns Kindred Flow Yoga Studios, which is on the second floor of B, opened up that space with 2 artists back in May of 2021. So I started teaching at the yoga studio upstairs. It's beautiful up there.
It is beautiful. I've taken classes.
It's so pretty. And then In early 2022, one of the spaces on the second floor opened up, and Kara asked me if I wanted to move my coaching offices up there, and I was like, heck yes.
Okay, awesome.
And then, so moved offices up there in 2022, and then in May of 2022, Half Day Cafe closed, which was the business that occupied this first floor. That's now the Market. And this whole time, like Kara and I, at different points and different people, we were like, gosh, it would be cool if there was like a juice or smoothie place downstairs. Gosh, that would be so awesome. And
I could use a smoothie right now.
Yeah.
Wait.
And in my
Wow.
coaching practice with clients, because I wanted to try to make things easier, a place that I noticed that people would get hung up on is kind of the overthinking of the food. Like when I say, just eat more whole foods and less processed foods, and notice how these foods feel in your body, and eat more of the ones that make it feel better and less of the ones that don't. Actually putting that into play could feel hard. So I was like, the initial concept for B was, let me collaborate with all of these cool people that I know doing cool things, and I will have a curated selection of food for them in this market. So the busy B is catered around the busy AF human, right? Because to me, I'm like, if I can make this real accessible for the busy AF human, it will be easily accessible for people that are just, chilling.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
my thought was they could come in, I would have everything ready to go, they'll know it tastes delicious, they can grab it, they can leave. And then hopefully that seed will be planted of slowing down, of being curious, all of that, being kinder to themselves. Then I met Katie Rogers, who's our chef, and she's amazing. So she started her business called Soup of the Week Club, which is nutrient-dense soups that actually taste good. Like I had noticed she was using words like gluten-free, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to her because I want to carry her soups here.
There you go.
We met, immediately hit it off. And Katie started to ask questions like, well, why wouldn't you just make this stuff in-house? And I'm like, because I don't know how to. Because my thought was I'll partner with everybody, and then we'll just do like smoothies in-house and smoothie bowls.
All right. So you kind of be the distributor for the other.
Totally, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it.
So then we started talking more, and long story short, she came onto the team, and totally, she's such an integral part of B because she gets the vision. She's so gifted, and the way that she makes nutrient-dense foods actually taste good is beyond my imagination. So when this space opened up, it was that question of like, do I do something? Do I not? I tried to recruit other entrepreneur friends to do something down here, and I was like, I'll shop here every day, but you should do this. I don't want to own it. Because I had such baggage from the brewery. Right.
I mean, that was a tough, tough
few
years.
Yes, absolutely.
It sounds like you did it. It was really cool, but it was.
So I'm like, I don't want to do it. Somebody else will come here.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to do it. So then in August, I had a meeting with a random person that I was introduced to.
Okay.
And I told her my idea and rambled very much. She's like, that's amazing. Like, you should absolutely do that. Like, I don't know how I can help, but however you need help.
Wow.
And it was that meeting where I was like, you know what? A complete stranger that I just rambled an idea to, thought it was a good idea. Let me just look at the space and meet the building owner, and then I'll check it off my list and like move on with my life. So I did that in August. It was August 15th of 2022. Yes. And it was immediate.
Yeah.
I knew immediately.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And then,
wow.
And then I made a commitment to follow my gut. That I really trusted in following my intuition
Your
and
healthy
letting
gut.
things unfold. My healthy gut. That is a legit thing too, because when your gut, your intuition is down there, like legitimately. We have two brains, so you got to keep them both going well.
Yeah. So you followed your gut.
Followed my gut, and I did not make a list. I just trusted that I would know the next thing to do when it was time to do it. Lots of faith, lots of praying, lots of God, but it all unfolded so easily because I think it was meant to be. Like, this is the current expression of the work that I am meant to be doing. So it all unfolded.
Right.
B, I was building it off a foundation of confidence as well, which makes a difference, and self-love and understanding.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't concerned about what other people thought. I was like, nope,
This is what
this
we're
is
doing.
the right thing.
Okay.
It unfolded. I had the most amazing people to help bring this to life, like my architect, Sarah from the coffee shop next door, Jeff and his team, my contractor. These people that I worked with loved and cared about this space as much as I did. So it turned out absolutely beautiful. And then like the collective of people that were drawn to work here, like Kindred Flow's still on the second floor. We have other healers and helpers. The team down here at B, it's like this collaborative, like beautiful, awesome environment. But I do really believe, and I had to work through a whole lot of stuff, whole lot of therapy, still working through things.
Yeah.
But something that I thought was really interesting in the process of B is that, on the outside, I wasn't always connected to like how much I was doing at one time. Like I felt like I went through the process of building B in a fairly healthy way, but looking back on it, I'm like, actually, yes. But then also, I think I had convinced myself that I was highly stressed, but really I was incredibly overwhelmed and pushing through the overwhelm. Not a good place, friend. So it's like I was hustling, but I was hustling healthier.
Okay.
But also something very interesting. I've done some human design work, and in that work, what came up is that if I am following my intuition, I have unlimited life force energy to put towards it. So it never feels like work. So I'm like, okay, how do we put this all together to understand how B got built, but then also not live in a place where it's like constant, because as an entrepreneur, you can just constantly keep going and it's exhausting.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, it's been really incredible. And I still to this day am like Jen, well, we were just saying this before, Jen, I'm just like, no shit.
Right.
What?
Like, wow. Right.
And the people that come in and the impact, like that's something that we measure here at B. It's
Talk about that. How do you measure success?
Yeah. So it's really interesting. I had to work through some different baggage that I held around money and what it means to be an entrepreneur, right? Because we think of like
dollars and
P&Ls,
cents.
dollars and cents.
Yeah.
Is there enough coming in? Is there too much going out? What do we do with that? All of that kind of stuff.
And you keep hearing now a lot. You can go to YouTube or all these different places and hear, made $1 million in 6 months, and you can too, and just on and on and on. So it's money, 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 money.
Yes, right?
So how do you, okay, yes.
So I think as I worked through that, is what came up for me is like, but really what this is about is the people. And I believe, and B's also a big experiment. Like for me, I'm just kind of seeing like, let me see what I can get away with, because I know I can fall back on the hustle. I know if S hits the fan, I can go back to the old way of being.
Right.
But like, what happens? Can I build a business just by following my intuition?
Okay.
Which on a side note is really interesting, because when I tell people that, they immediately think that I don't know what I'm doing. They're like, oh, what's this woo-woo person?
Right. But
you can't build a business on your intuition. Where's your business plan? Well, of course I have all of that too.
Right. But it's more believing in yourself. People aren't believing in you, but you aren't listening to that. You're listening to what you know, your experiences.
Yeah.
We're all made of our experiences, right? And a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people discount their own experiences, or even as women, some of our experiences are discounted. I mean, running a family is running a business.
Hello.
So, right? Yeah. It's the hardest business I've ever had to run. But anyway, so I feel like a lot of that, we don't count that as experience. We don't count that as knowledge, and which then that experience turns into what I think you're talking about is the intuition. You can draw from that and go, this worked before, I'm doing it again. This worked before, oh, I know that'll work. But people the outside go,
yeah, and so far that experiment of let me see if I could just follow my intuition, how that goes, is working.
Oh, I love it.
And with my team, it looks like, especially Katie and I, it's like we'll bounce ideas off, and there are times where I'm like, I gotta sit with this for a second. Let me like just take a breath and like tune into what's being, what I'm feeling, what I'm listening to.
Right.
The other part that I'm experimenting with is like, what happens when you prioritize people over the to-dos consistently?
Okay.
And let me tell you, in the building of B, it was really hard because there are like 50 million things pulling you in different directions. And to sit down with the person in front of you and take a breath as you're like, I need to go pick up these screws from Menards, and I need to get like this light switch from Lowe's, and I need to like, are all of the door jambs black? Does anybody really care about that? I care about it, so let me make sure that I get the right size door jambs, right?
So you're doing that.
But to sit down with the person in front of you and take a breath and be like, okay, what do you need? How? And it is not always easy. And I find myself, I really want everybody to hear, as I talk about these things, there's no such thing as perfection. It is like a day-to-day choice and a day-to-day learning of like, I aspire to always prioritize my people and the people that come in. There are days where I nail it. There are days where I don't. And I'm just kind of like, okay, let's take a look here. Like, why was I thinking that all of this random stuff over here was more important? What's going on? And it usually has to do because I'm stressed out. And I just need to finish something to feel good about myself, you know? But I think, let me finish that. I don't know what I'm doing at the end of the day. I know enough of what I'm doing to like get me to the next day, but like it's all an experiment. I don't nail it every day.
Based on experience though.
Based on experience, yes, you know?
Yeah,
so
awesome.
That's the other thing, that kind of exploring. And then so intuition, prioritizing people. And the third thing too is like, what does it look like to really root deeply into beliefs that I hold very true, and how does that look like in the hiring process, in the experience process, in what we're doing, and being okay with the fact that not everybody gets it. And that's okay. That's where it comes to like building that foundation off of self-confidence and self-love and appreciation, and knowing that you're the only one that can birth your unique vision out into the world. Not everyone's going to get it. We don't get everybody, so why would we have that expectation that everybody would get us? Even though it's the coolest. I mean, we all think our...
So I love how you listed that out. So if you're not looking sheerly at profit and loss, what do you look at? No, it's okay. I love that. You gave 3 great nuggets there, but what are you looking at?
So it was the people piece of it. So we measure, we have a whiteboard in our like little transition space there, where we have all of our names, and every day we encourage the team to write a number from 0 to 100. We're like asking like, where are you at today? So we can
you mean your staff?
Yep.
All right.
So we can kind of have a visual of like, if a team member writes they're at like a 40, I'm not going to come in hot with 50 million tasks that day, right? Of like, do this, do this, do this. I'm going to be like,
I got a new thing for you.
Like, try to meet people where they're at. It's also interesting to see what everybody's average is, and that it's all individualized. Like one person's 70 is another person's 50, you know?
Interesting.
It's so cool. But on that board, we also have the number of how many humans we impacted that week, which is taken from like how many, there's a number that our POS system generates, like based on tickets and stuff. So every week I write, we've impacted at least this number of humans, because that ripple effect, like I think about everyone that comes in here, and we invite people to come in, even if they're not buying anything. Like B is also just a place to be, to grab some water, to chill, to take a breath, to smile, to like pass through. We have the middle schoolers like to pass through one door and go out the front door, like whatever you need. But if we can just smile at that person and meet them to where they're at, the ripple effect that causes is like, who knows how far it goes.
Right. So you could be multiplying that number by 3, 10, 20, you don't know. Wow. And it also, does it remind your staff that maybe isn't on the front of the house, the people in the back that may not talk to all these people, that they did impact them? Also, even though they aren't in the front of the house?
Absolutely.
That's so cool.
And I think too, it's like when we're choosing to do events or partnerships and stuff, we're always kind of considering that. And something that I think is really important too is with the food that will not make it. So we're closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So if we have food that's not going to make it till Thursday, we donate all of that to a local food bank.
That's awesome.
So it's like that little ripple effect. Like you just never know. You never know. So
That's amazing. So you're measuring in impact,
ripples.
literally,
Yeah.
and people that you've impacted. And not only, I like how you not only look outward to the people that you serve in the community and that come through, like you said, but you're looking inward. You care about your staff and your talent, that they are okay, and that they're healthy and well as well. Do you find that based on your previous experience and now that helps retain talent and that helps make them more productive and caring about the business?
Yes, that's been the case so far.
I think
that's
what I've seen in my past experience. Yeah, that's amazing.
I think there's always room for more. Like I think about, what other opportunities can I provide for the team, just to help them get curious. If there's something that is on their mind, or is there a resource, or is there something that we can bring in house? And it's
wow.
I like to think that we're a pretty chill environment.
Yeah.
I don't know, unless I'm like way off, but I think we're a pretty chill environment. We have had really, really great retention as I think about it, and the people that
I see the same faces.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm like, almost a year in, but I also think about it's so cool to see the people that are attracted to us to work here, and it is such an honor. Like to me, I take it very seriously that out of all the 50 million places that someone can work, that if they choose to work here and spend their time here,
right?
I mean,
wow,
like that's huge.
Right.
It's huge.
So cool. All right, I want to ask you a little bit about the organization that I got involved in. It's why I met you, and that you run, and that's Elevate.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about Elevate and how that is impacting other entrepreneurs in our community.
Yeah, so that's another intuition thing.
Okay.
Like truly, of like, I think that's another thing I've learned as an entrepreneur that feels better for me is, when I was with the brewery, that was like pedal down to the metal.
Right.
Everything, making the impossible things happen, all of that without much like slowing down and being like, what's up? Like, what's the root cause here?
Yeah.
With B, it's been very intuitive, and Elevate has been the same way. And I just want to note that both of these things happened after I made the decision to get to know myself better and sit in the yuck of self-discovery and find support systems and therapy. I do not believe that these things would have happened if I was not in a well-placed myself, or on the journey of being. I mean, are we ever in a fully well-placed?
I don't know.
No.
Probably not.
That's part of life. I don't know.
That's right.
We can work on it.
Yeah.
So in like 2020, 2021, I was pitching article ideas to a local magazine that we have here in Wyoming, and they weren't really digging on any of them. And then I was like, International Women's Month was coming up, and I was like, well, I've always felt like Wyoming has a ton of female identifying entrepreneurs. So I pitched that idea, and they were like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, awesome. So I knew of like 30 of them. Then I put the call out like on the Facebook groups of like, who is all here? And the original kind of metric was you were a female identifying entrepreneur that lived in Wyoming, or a female identifying entrepreneur that lived outside of Wyoming but chose to locate her business here.
Okay.
And as I was putting all this together, I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if one day we all got together and hung out? That would be so cool.
That would be so cool.
And I like pinned it because it didn't feel right yet. It felt like, oh my God, that feels like too much to do. So I just kind of like pinned it as an idea. And then a couple years later, I was like, gosh, the list is now over 130 female identifying entrepreneurs.
Holy
just
cow.
In Wyoming, 2.5 mile radius.
Yeah, we're not a big community.
Yes.
We're right near Cincinnati, but the community itself is 2.5 square miles, right?
And it's even larger because we've started to like invite in.
Yes.
Any female entrepreneur can come hang with us and learn.
Yes. And now what's the list up to?
Oh my gosh. It has to be over 160 now.
That's so
with the
cool. It grows every time you have an event, right?
Yes, it's amazing.
Yes.
But it's a really low key, my aspiration for it was, okay, how do I make this feel like not one more thing to do, that it's like super low barrier entry, easy going, show up if you want to, show up if you don't want to, like it doesn't matter, whatever you want to, come in your pajamas, come with your kid, you do whatever feels right to you. Yeah, and so it started.
Right.
And then we meet every other month on the second Thursday of the month, right down the street at the Wyoming Civic Center. And the format of it has grown and changed a little bit, and I'm really digging our current format, which is we always start with the centering. Like, let's take a moment to just like transition into the space, breath, yes, let it all go.
100%.
Yeah. And then typically it's another Elevate member that will present on a topic that she is well versed at. So we've had everything from different life topics and health topics to entrepreneurial topics. And then what I really enjoy is the time afterwards. We aspire to always make time to meet in small groups. There was an entrepreneur group that I was a part of, my friend Stacy started, called Bold Boss Ladies, and this was Elevate is very much inspired by it. But part of what I loved about that group, and that's how I met actually Autumn McKinley, like different Wyoming people as well, was she always left space for us to connect in small groups, and just whatever needed to be said, whatever question needed to be asked, whatever vulnerability needed to be felt was always welcome. And that's what I wanted to create, because I think as entrepreneurs, we can become very isolated and think that we're the only one that is experiencing this particular issue, or maybe we're in our head for a specific reason, or for me, I remember one time I was like, I just need to cry. And I just cried for my 5 minutes
there you go.
sobbered about different things. But
Perfect.
to be able to create small group community where people can feel more inclined to share the hardest parts of entrepreneurship, I think is what's really important. And also talking about things like, it's like, what are the most uncomfortable entrepreneurial topics that we could talk about? Let's bring it here, because I think also money too is a really big one that like nobody talks about, but also the perception of like success, but then it's like, really, what's going on here can be really freeing.
And I just have to say, so I didn't start working full time on our business until last summer, and so I got invited to Elevate, and I'm kind of an introvert, so I was like, I don't want to do this.
Which is wild.
Well, I know. I play one on TV. I play one on TV. I love one-on-one. I tend to be much more quiet in a bigger group unless it's something I'm fairly passionate about.
Yeah.
So I came, and it was amazing. And I've come to everyone since. And but the cool thing about Elevate is, yes, you get learning from other entrepreneurs, which is amazing. You get to meet other entrepreneurs and tell them what you do, and they tell you what they do. So I have gotten business from Elevate.
Yes,
I've hired 2 people off the top of my head.
That's cool.
Maybe more from Elevate that has helped me or my business. And then I've served others that I've met there in their businesses, and it's just to think that just that ecosphere of 160 or whatever could do that, and usually we only get 20 to 30 show, but it's always a different 20 to 30, and then there's emails that go around and about, and there's newsletters, and there's just you're really good at not overwhelming us.
Thank you.
But when I see an email from you or a update, I'm like, this will be packed with everything we need. So go read it, and then pick and choose the stuff you need, and then I'm not gonna get an email tomorrow and the next day and the next day, because I think we get overwhelmed with that, and we have to go, okay. But it's just the perfect balance, and like you said, I feel like there's no expectations that I can break or like disappoint anybody. You can't be wrong. So it's a really excellent organization. If anybody's interested in starting that in your community, I think you would be welcome to be contacted about that.
Absolutely, because I think too, anytime we can build community with each other and just be reminded that we're not alone in this journey is amazing. And it doesn't have to be big things. I think that's too where it comes down to like really following your intuition. Like if something feels too much for you, it's cool to not do it, because maybe it's just a not right now and maybe a later, but it's like there's so much potential that Elevate has that I'm just like, But right now,
Yeah, you just have to. Yep.
I'm just going to trust
Yeah.
that I will know when more is to come from it. But yeah, anyone who would like to connect, I love talking to people. Or if you just want to feel great about what you're doing, let me know and I will affirm you. I don't know.
There you go. Well, I'm going to throw an idea out to you.
Yeah.
I just had it, so I'm going to follow my intuition that maybe one of the episodes of a podcast could be an Elevate meeting or could be a subset.
Oh,
and we
yeah.
could just have a little panel or something, maybe.
Oh, that would be...
So we're going to talk about that because I can tell you're already like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I get goosebumps. So
we could do a live stream maybe. That would be amazing. That'd be so cool. All right. Well, that's excellent. So tell us how, we should probably wrap up. Tell us how people could get in touch with you, either on social media or a website or whatever.
So the best way to get in touch with me right now is through, I would say, honestly, through Instagram or my email. So on Instagram, there's a couple handles, but the one I check the most is at nourishatbe, all spelled out. So NOURISHATBE. And guess what, friends? That is also our Facebook address, and it's also our web address. So you could go to nourishatbe.com, and there is a little contact on the other side of that. You can also email me hello@nourishatbe.com.
That's cool.
Yes, and I also have my personal website is lindseybonadonna.com, LindseyBonadonna.com. And then on Instagram, I'm Lindsey Loves Wellness.
Excellent.
But yeah, and truly, I can't tell you enough. I love connecting with people. I love normalizing things that are really uncomfortable in the entrepreneurial and life journey. So, yes.
Awesome. We'll put all that in the description or show notes so that you all can get in touch with Lindsey if you would like to. Lindsey, thank you so much. This has been
Janet.
so good. I know we could probably talk another whole hour.
At least.
But so maybe we'll have you back.
I know,
That would be so fun. So, but I do think an Elevate connection would be interesting.
Yes.
So thank you. So,
and Janet, thank you, because I think the work that you are doing is so incredibly impactful, and to share these journeys, because I think sometimes we forget why we're being called to what we're being called to do. So to remember the impact that we are having, that it's not a black and white numbers transaction.
Right.
Is awesome.
That's cool. Everyone, thanks for joining. We hope you will rate and follow this podcast. If you're on YouTube, subscribe so you see all the cool journeys that we're going to show. And we already have some out there that you can check out. So thank you all for joining. And remember, without impact, it doesn't matter. See ya.
Bye, guys.